Alright guys, welcome back. GM Light here. Today we're going to be talking about Creep 3. Is it still happening? What's the latest news on it? I'm going to go through pretty much everything we know, everything we've heard, A to Z, so I'm going to give you the full breakdown. I'm a pretty big fan of those first two movies. I really get enraptured in Mark Duplass's performance as this creep. He just plays such a weird guy with all these odd mannerisms. There's a lot to latch onto. It's pretty much all his character-driven performance, and I'm very interested to see what happens if he does finally get around to making this third movie, what it's about, what they could do, this concept, this character, what they're gonna do next. Pretty much the earliest thing that I could find on this third movie was that it was announced in 2017 that Creep 3 will round out the trilogy. The director of the first two movies, Patrick Brice, confirmed this in an interview in 2017 in October. Apparently at a Q&A, Patrick Brice said that the first movie and the second movie were pre-sold on the condition that there would be a trilogy when all is said and done. So this is pretty much the initial confirmation that this movie was in development, that it was happening, that we were actually going to get it at some point. I kind of had my heart broken on that because I was kind of just left waiting and waiting, and at this point it's been 6 years since the second movie, so obviously this didn't jumpstart immediately in any fashion. And then from there, in September 2018, this is kind of when we got our next update on what was going on with the movie. This is where Mark Duplass said that it's official that they are writing the movie. This is pretty much a short update, and Mark Duplass tweeted, "While we're working on Creep 3, please enjoy the world premiere of Creep 2.5, and it's like a link to the Peach Fuzz mask. I think it's like his kid dancing with the Peach Fuzz mask or something. So it was just like a little bit of a cheeky joke. But again, it is what confirmed that he is writing this movie. The article also kind of talks about a small interaction that Patrick Brice had on a podcast where he was saying that he wanted Creep 3 to be their Army of Darkness. Just go off the rails and get pretty crazy with the third and probably final movie, which is expected. I always figured that they would go crazy. They escalated things pretty much with that second movie and a character that is a lot more able to stand up to his antics and kind of test him a bit more than in the first movie, where Aaron's just completely helpless the entire time and has no idea what's really going on with this guy. From there, in March 2019, this is when we get another update that Patrick Brice says we finally have an idea and it's something we're very excited about. So to specifically quote him and what he said in this interview, he said this: "We finally found an idea that we're really excited about. One of the things that we wanted to keep true with these movies is that they're still small scale, keeping that focus tight, letting it be something that sort of orbits around Mark's character. We found something we're really excited about. We're still in the process of writing, I can say that. Between the two of us, in the last year, I made another movie. I just got hired to direct another film that is very much a horror film on a much bigger scale than any of the Creep movies, so I'm really excited about that too. And Mark is doing a million things. We're at the point where, if all goes well, shooting this movie later this year. We have to find a pocket in our schedules where we can actually make this movie and do right by it." And that makes sense. I think at this point they really had full intentions on just getting that movie out there going into it, and it seemed like they had an idea that was interesting. Maybe it would be him with another serial killer. That could be interesting. There's really nothing you could do but speculate on what they were possibly planning. But unfortunately, this leads me to the next update that happened after that, where almost exactly a year after that, March in 2020, Mark Duplass admitted that they are struggling with what to do with Creep 3. And more specifically, what he said is, "We've written it twice and neither of those stories are good enough, and the reason is we almost didn't make Creep 2. We just got lucky with Creep, as cogent as it is considering how we made it, and I didn't want to disappoint people, and I didn't want to put out a stupid sequel. We decided to make Creep 2, we had to almost kill ourselves to make the movie as good as it is. I appreciate how many people liked it, but I do feel like it wasn't as good as it could have been, if I'm being perfectly honest. If we're going to make a third one, it'd be super inspired. We are trying, and we are putting effort into it, but we're not good enough yet to make it worthwhile, so we are struggling. That's really it." This was kind of where I got a little bit nervous, because it made it seem like there's a possibility that this movie might not even happen, because he is kind of getting cold feet about the whole thing. And I get that he's worried about making a sequel that's not as good or not as well regarded as the first two. I'm kind of surprised about that comment that he made about the second movie, because a lot of people actually like it better than the first movie. I'm not exactly sure where I fall in that. I think I like them about the same, but I definitely think that it's at least just as good a quality as the first movie. But that was something unfortunate, because you could clearly tell that Mark Duplass cares about making a good movie, and he doesn't want to just put out a schlocky sequel that nobody cares about. out. About another year later, in August of 2021, Mark Duplass talked about it again and kind of talking about why audiences connected with Creep. He also mentioned with the movie that the approach this time was to make sure that we maintain that sense of childlike play and the arts and craft style of filmmaking that came to define the first one. We had a larger budget, we could have had a bigger crew, but we specifically decided to keep it very small and still shoot from an outline and improvise and try to find the fun in those moments right on set as it happened. Sometimes we jump into a scene and the scene just happens magically and we're done in 7 minutes, and then sometimes we shoot it 5 times and it's terrible. Then we sit around for 3 hours depressed trying to figure out how to rewrite the scene, what to do to make it work, and then we get it, and as soon as we get it, we shoot it right there. And that all makes sense to me. The movies feel kind of improvised, they feel very natural. The delivery of a lot of Joseph or Mark Duplass's character's lines feel sometimes improvised. All the interactions though, they feel very earned. There's nothing really forced about it. It doesn't feel like they're going through this scripting phase that a lot of movies kind of fall into and create some kind of robotic performances. And I think that that is also a reason why I really like that movie, is that it just feels so organic. That was really the last real update that we've gotten about the movie. Other than that, it really hasn't been a whole lot. It seems like this movie is hinging kind of on a writer's block with Mark Duplass. I think that he might be overthinking it. I think that he's kind of going back and forth in his head on what would work best, what should they do, which concept should they run with. It also doesn't help that Mark Duplass is a very busy and wanted actor. Everybody wants him in their projects, and he's incredibly successful. Patrick Brice is also kind of doing his own thing on the side. I think that he's not thinking about Creep as often anymore. Doesn't seem like as much of a priority as it used to be, and that kind of worries me that this movie might never get made. It might be forgotten, and hopefully that isn't true and that we do get this movie at some point, hopefully some point soon. It's really not as clear of a thing as Collector 3, where the producers kind of lost interest in Collector 3 and it's most likely not going to happen because of that. With Creep, I'm sure that it could be made very quickly, very easily. I'm sure that they wouldn't need a high budget of any kind nearly. It seems like they like that smaller scale approach, low budget, low commitment. So if all the pieces kind of come together and they finally make that movie, that'd be great. I really hope that it does come out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Are you a fan of the Creep movies? Would you like to see a Creep 3? Are you hoping this movie happens like me? Love to hear it. I'm GM Light. Have a good one.